Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. It's not raining in Buffalo. My God.
Or here.
Yeah, not yet. I shouldn't say anything because I'll blink and storm clouds will fly over.
I think we're supposed to get rain the next day or two, yeah.
Oh, God, it's dreadful. All right, but we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
All right. Let's talk about Stan Kroenke. He's the owner of the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
He basically moved the team out of St. Louis, and then St. Louis, I think the St. Louis Regional Convention and Sports Complex Authority sued the NFL.
Right.
And this has been going on for 4 years. The NFL owners thought they would get out of it already, but they haven't. And apparently they had a meeting yesterday and they actually asked Kroenke to leave the room. That's how mad the owners are at him. They could lose up to $1 billion just to settle this suit.
Well, do you know why they're pissed off at him? They're pissed off at him.
They moved the franchise.
No, not just that. They're pissed off at him because he had promised that he would pick up all the legal fees for the suit because, it was him moving the team from St. Louis to Los Angeles. And now he's reneged. He says, "Oh, I'm not going to pay the attorney." So it's on the NFL because the NFL representing on behalf of the St. Louis / Los Angeles Rams. So, and if I'm not wrong, isn't he part of Kroger's or Walmart or something? Like he's part of.
Yeah, I think it's Kroger, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
looks like the deal that he got though is he only has to pay $1 a year as a tenant.
Jesus.
But that also he shouldn't be responsible for all legal fees. So this has got the NFL owners mad because they don't like to lose money. Like they're at a point now where they just feel like money should just get paid to them no matter what, and they're immune to having a loss in profit. And I find it fascinating because I think in the end they are going to have to settle, and the league and every owner will be affected by this.
Yeah, the headline from Seth Wickersham of ESPN, owner Stan Kroenke might be trying to back away from his promise to cover tens of millions of dollars in legal expenses related to his team's 2016 departure from St. Louis, a revelation that angered many NFL owners, when they learned of it on Tuesday, sources told ESPN. So yeah, he's welching. And the NFL doesn't need this on top of the Gruden scandal, on top of apparently what Roger Goodell is doing to protect Daniel Snyder in Washington, because he's not.
That's a whole other.
Yeah, he's not releasing the details of the investigation that didn't have to do with, I guess that did not have, secondary or tertiary items that didn't have to do with the point of the investigation. But of course, everybody in Washington who hates Daniel Snyder wants him out because he's a jerk, and they're looking at anything that they can get their hands on. And I get that, if you have a bad owner, it's like, if you have Harold Ballard, you want Harold Ballard to go to jail or die because you want your team to have a good owner that will actually, but then look at how bad the Washington football team has suffered under Daniel Snyder. But apparently Daniel Snyder's main benefactor in the NFL is his good buddy Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones is a power broker in the league. And if that's the case, that then Daniel Snyder will not be touched. You watch.
Right. So one more thing. So Deshaun Watson, with the trading deadline coming close, there is a deal in place, Mike, with the Miami Dolphins.
Yep.
But there's just one problem.
Yeah, Miami
will not make the trade.
Yep.
Yeah, they won't make the trade unless all of his legal issues are resolved. His 22 civil lawsuits.
Yeah. Okay, that's going to happen. I mean, okay.
Sexual misconduct, of course, in case people don't know. So they're like, hey, we'll trade for him, but you got to make those 22 lawsuits go away, which haven't gone away in the last, 6 months to a year.
Yeah, and I seriously doubt that Houston is going to be getting multiple first-round picks for Deshaun Watson.
Because nobody wants to risk it.
I think they'd be lucky if they get Tua back in the deal, and because then Miami will basically be dumping Tua and admitting a mistake. But no,
10 of the women have filed actual complete police complaints, which does make you wonder, isn't that enough due process for the league to kind of put him on the commissioner's list? Hold on. They put Ray Rice on the commissioner's list for what they saw on a video. Is this not worse?
I have heard it said that if Ray Rice was 22 years old, he would have gotten a job in the NFL even after that whole scandal happened. But because
so that makes my point.
Yeah, and Deshaun Watson's
that makes my point.
Yeah, it's the value of the player. It's not the serious.
But Rice was put on the commissioner's list.
Yep,
and Deshaun Watson has not been.
Right.
That's where Roger Goodell really goes wrong. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Go ahead, Ak.
Okay, let's get started. Here we go. Thursday, October 28th. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It is Thursday, October 28th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and obviously Ak got himself a calendar.
Nope.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and anytime I put on a hoodie, the sun comes out. That's all I can say.
The sun will come out. No,
I know, it's still like crazy. I'm Max, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. It's the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday to fill you in the comings and goings in the hockey world and tell you exactly who's going to win in every game, as I tend to do.
Don't listen to me.
But I won't go there. I won't even talk about it today because honestly, we really have to start with the other with this situation that is still ongoing right now. And yesterday we talked a little bit about it. Obviously, speaking about the Kyle Beach situation and
yeah, can we first say it took a lot of bravery, a lot of guts for Kyle Beach to come out. There was a lot of speculation, like, okay, it's a black ace. Let's see who we can guess. He came out. He interviewed with Rick Westhead from TSN. It was important enough that it didn't matter if it was TSN or Sportsnet. People like Elliot Friedman, who works for Sportsnet, retweeted the TSN video, which is unheard of because it was such an important story.
Yeah.
And I only watched video snippets of it, but it just made a situation that was ugly and painful even more infuriating and ugly because of, who knew what happened, who covered up what, and really the tentacles of this are going to continue for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it is
a couple things. So
go ahead.
No,
I think
you go first.
I think that, there's obviously so much to get into with this and so many different aspects to unpack of it, but I think that obviously the interview comes out at 6:20, 6:30 is done or somewhere around there. The game, Panthers game starts at 7. There's a lot of craziness around, whether or not Quenneville should be coaching the game or not. I know we had Kevin.
I said it yesterday. He shouldn't. Even before we knew this other information.
Right. I don't. How that was handled is something we can discuss for sure.
Well,
I think that at the end of the day, that I couldn't agree with you more, Mike, about the courage. And I think that really what it also does is give other people the courage to talk out too. Because this is the only instance of this kind of thing. And there's lots of athletes out there, or just people in, jobs in general who are going through stuff like this.
Sure.
And when somebody like this gets out there and publicly says something like this, it can start a process, I think of the Me Too movement and stuff like that. There are processes that can begin, and some teams, whatever you think of Me Too, or if it got out of hand, or whatever you want to think of it, it was important in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of important parts to it. And I think this is very important right now. And
yeah, Me Too started it down the road with the Harvey Weinstein situation, and he's a pig and a reprobate who got everything that he deserved.
Yeah,
and other people who did things that I think got what they deserved. And but the thing is that sometimes people get caught up in that sometimes they weren't guilty.
Well, there's no question that every situation will have people who will take advantage of it. So people, and that's a tough thing to get in, to judge from our perspective.
I got a couple things.
Go ahead, Rush. You go.
So first off, I watched SportsCenter because I wanted to see the lead-in. Didn't even mention it.
Really?
They were going football, World Series, basketball, didn't even mention it. Now, maybe at some point in the broadcast, they mentioned it for a minute and a half, but the fact that they didn't have it anywhere near the beginning, to me, was a tone deafness of their own, because they now promote the sport, and if you do, you should be covering all aspects of it as the same as the others, if not larger, because again, there's a lot more looming in this one. The other thing is with Kyle Beach, with Kyle Beach, I covered him, right? I 2010 draft, I was there in LA. I knew about the player as far as being a really good player.
Yeah.
For years, he may have been the one player that I got asked about the most. How come he didn't make it to the NHL? Because he had size, he was good in the crease,
right?
He had a great shot, he was a tremendous scorer in juniors, and best I could figure out was he wasn't fast enough, and maybe the injuries. Yeah. And now that we know what we know, he was battling that too.
Yeah.
And that really made me sad, because this guy had a lot of talent. And I'd hate to think that kept him from being in the league too, what went on, but it certainly was a contributing factor.
It's hard to imagine, it wasn't, like you say, I guess it's definitely a contributing factor. So it's hard to, I think with the ESPN note, I think that's interesting is that, you would think, okay, the NHL is telling them not to do that, but the NHL Network addressed it clearly. The NHL Network addressed it entirely, and they did so in between the first and second period. So much so with Weeks saying that Quenneville shouldn't be coaching in this game in between the first and second period. So that was a clear, the NHL Network. I was very impressed with how they handled it. They really did a good job with it.
But I think Beach is still playing. Yes, for Funky to ask that. Yes.
Yeah, but and the thing was, and we had a conversation going back and forth on our little private text message chain about Quenneville, and the thing was, once he stepped out on the bench, I heard somebody say, "Well, they could have like at the end of the first period tell him to go." Once he stepped out on the bench, he was going to be there for the game. There was no pulling back from there. Now, was it a right decision to let him coach? I mean, how many people did we see? He shouldn't be coaching this game. Ken Campbell said
it was the wrong decision.
It was the wrong decision.
Tone deaf.
I also think the reality of the Beach. I mean, the Beach stuff coming out of when it did, at the late hour it did, I think was played into that. Now I didn't talk to anybody in the.
But there was enough time.
It was enough time. I agree, and I was the person who said that they should have pulled him after the first period. So I mean, I really still feel that they should have realized what was happening at that point. And at one point they go up. They showed in the Panthers press box area where the GMs and all that are. And Roberto Luongo was texting. You could tell Roberto Luongo was really upset about something, and it really felt to me like because Roberto Luongo works with them now too. So I wonder. There's so many things there, and I know that if your guy, if Quenneville is telling you, you're the organization, he's telling you that he's innocent, and he hasn't had a day in court yet, you're in a spot there. You're in a real big spot because a person there has said something, which as convincing as Beach. And I have no reason to think he's not absolutely telling the truth. The one thing I can say about the Quenneville stuff is, and he said some stuff that was really damning towards Quenneville, and I'm not defending Quenneville at all. I think Quenneville should be removed. But I'm saying the damning stuff towards Quenneville was like stuff he said he heard. Like he heard that Quenneville said this, or he was in meetings where, and it wasn't directly like he said, I told Quenneville this and Quenneville denied it. If he had said that
in a legal proceeding, that would be looked upon as hearsay and they wouldn't be able to confirm it. And that's where Quenneville may have an out but the thing is that his testimony is in direct contradiction to the testimony of everybody else who was in that room, including Stan Bowman, including Cheveldayoff and others. So that's where the meeting between Quenneville and Bettman is going to be extremely important, because if he continues on that line and everybody else is saying he's there and he's not, and he's saying he's not there, how do they reconcile that?
He was saying, and just to be clear, what I heard at least was he was saying that he was brought into that meeting halfway through, and told that they were and they had knew they were discussing some issue that was going on with the team, personal issue, but didn't know what the issue was. And when he got the meeting, they were discussing something else. That was his line. Now,
okay,
here's what I'll say about
that. Do we not believe Kyle Beach?
No, I
he's
believe
saying that teammate.
Right.
Okay, so teammates were giving homophobic slurs.
Oh no,
You don't think Quenneville?
Again, you weren't here, Russ, when I said I think Quenneville should be removed. I'm just saying what Quenneville is saying. So to me, the reality here is this, and I'll end on it. I'll not end on this, but I'll say that this is my end of my discussion in my head. I have talked to people around the NHL for years, and we all have, and they all talk about accountability all the time. And you'll hear coaches and general managers say, I wasn't aware of that, and then they'll say, but it is my job to be aware of that. I should have been aware of that. That's another thing you hear constantly from coaches and GMs. So, if Quenneville wasn't aware of it, he still has to come out and say, I resigned because it was my job to be aware of it. You know what I mean? And that to me, I think, is the right or wrong, whatever he knew, whatever he didn't know, we'll never fully know. But, I think that it was his job to know.
Well, but and then you go to and Russ just retweeted the statement of Jonathan Taves after the game, and we were saying when we talked about this that Taves and Kane, who were the only two members of that 2010 team that were still on the Hawks, should come out and make a statement. Well, Jonathan Taves made a statement, and Jonathan Taves' statement is so tone deaf, to the point that he's basically giving it defending Stan Bowman and McIsaac. They're not directly complicit in the activities that happen. It's not up for me to comment on whether they'd like to deal with it differently or not. Okay. And then, Taves is the captain of this team, and you've got a player who is being picked on because they, we know the homophobic comment.
Yeah. And then other people involved too.
Right. And it was common.
Just one person.
Other teammates like Nick Boynton came out in social media and said this was common knowledge. Everybody knew what was going on. Patrick Kane came out yesterday and said, I didn't know John Doe number 1 was Kyle Beach. My ass. There's no way. I mean, this is sort of non-denial bullshit is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it is. And I again, it's their responsibility to know what was going on. And I talked to one player from that team who said, listen, even the people who didn't know, it was going around. You know what I mean? So you can sit there and say you didn't know, but you can't sit there and say you didn't hear about it.
Right.
Like you can say you don't know whether it happened.
And then Duncan Keith saying he never had any interaction with the video coach. Those guys go through the locker room all the time.
Yeah, that's ridiculous too.
Basically.
By the way, sorry. He had to have interaction with him because he was on the Stanley Cup parade.
Yeah, they all knew who he was. I mean, it's not like they're handing a Stanley Cup to a stranger out there. They know who this is. I mean, they know who this guy is. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. And
he was probably on the ice when we were in 2010.
Yeah, they were. He was. I'm sure he was. I mean, I talked to Shoveldayev on the ice in 2010 when they won. I remember Shoveldayev came up to me. I talked to him on that, and listen.
I was talking to Scotty Bowman.
Yeah, we don't know what Shoveldayev knew. We don't know. But, this is the thing is, it really is more of a matter of people should have known, and they should take responsibility for having known. Like if the reality is, it doesn't matter whether or not how much they knew or what they knew to me. It matters that, that they didn't do their job by, but they should have known this. They should have figured it out. It should have been, it was going around.
Taves should step down as captain. He should, because he's failed as a captain.
Yeah, and it's and it's surprising because Taves is Mr. Captain, right? Like he is the guy who everybody.
Well, that's what we thought.
And Kane came out too and said said good things about Bowman. It's really not.
If Kane wears the A, he shouldn't be wearing the A anymore.
Everybody was the timing of this thing was so strange, and I think that people who got on Quenneville for not speaking to the media last night, I don't think are completely fair either. Because the reality is
he's lawyered up.
He's got to be lawyered up, and also, listen. If they did this interview at noon yesterday, and then it lingered all day, I don't think he would have coached that game at all. First of all, secondly,
Vinny Viola, all he had to do was make a phone call. That's all he had to do.
What do you mean?
To stop him from being the coach in that game.
I agree with you on that.
Simple phone call.
I agree, but I think that the reality is. And it doesn't make it right. Again, the timing doesn't make it right. But Quenneville, it happens at 6. He goes out and coaches the game, and there's like a no phone policy on teams during the game, so they don't know all the stuff that's being said on Twitter and all this stuff. So he's not, he doesn't know how much he's getting slammed, how much he's getting killed. They're shielding the team from all that while they're playing the game. Like, we're going to go out and play this game, right? So then to throw him right into that press conference after what had been like 4 hours of buildup, I don't think would have been fair to him. And whether I think at some point he's got to adjust the media for sure. But
I really don't care what's fair to him either. I don't.
And that's true. That's a good point too, Russ. But I think that I understand why they did it the way they did it, because they don't.
No, I do too.
He's the only one who knows he's the only one who knows what he really did wrong and didn't do wrong in this situation.
They're reserving judgment until Bettman gets a chance to talk to both of them directly. But the thing is, though, I mean, I don't know how many people expected Stan Bowman to lose his job when it came to the result, the final result of this whole investigation. Yeah. I was skeptical. I thought it would, but they're, now he's lost his job. They're talking about going back and getting money from John McDonough's severance with the Blackhawks. If it goes down the road of Cheveldayoff having to resign and Quenneville having to resign, the ripple effects of this are going to go on for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so two things. I do want to say, hey, Sonic, sorry to Johnny Rev. He went through a situation when he was younger, and sorry to hear that. He's revealing that in the chat room. It is a terrible thing to have to live with. As far as having to resign, you don't have to be forced to resign. You can resign on your own.
Yeah.
Well, he's okay. Let's just say I don't expect these people to say, "Oh, sure, I'm going to give up my job that I'm making millions of dollars from gladly." They're going to be forced to.
I don't know about that.
Fired.
I don't know about that with Quenneville. I really would be absolutely 100% shocked if Quenneville doesn't resign right at some point later today.
I don't know what to think anymore. I mean, again, yesterday when I gave that game number, I was acting like what the NHL might do. I don't want this guy coaching.
Oh yeah, no,
that's
I know.
what I would do. And it's like, so I don't know what to think.
He's already made a lot of money. He's already won Stanley Cups. He doesn't.
Yeah, he's fine financially.
He doesn't need his reputation ruined anymore in his mind, probably. And he's just like, in my mind, he's out. He says, I'm gone. I'm going to save her. But he's going to Bettman to talk, and I think that that's the right thing to do. Still, not resign. I don't know. Maybe he could have resigned before that, and they still have to go to Bettman to talk about how you slice it. He didn't know, like I said.
That's fine, but he could have resigned and then talk to him too.
There's so many things, like I said, we just don't know so many things about this. But I think no matter what, I think Quenneville's complicit. I think there's just no getting around.
I'll tell you what the public perception of this is, right? Fans' perception and other media now that are talking about this, because this is starting to get to be a national story. The other perception is nobody, Jonathan Taves, all these other people we're talking about, nobody has made a step forward to try and atone for what they did or what they didn't do or knowing about it or anything else. It is purely the opposite, and that makes a situation like this worse.
Yeah. I think you're right, and I expected more from people today about in that way, And again, if this happened earlier yesterday, I think you would have seen it last night. I think the reality is that of the timing of it really it doesn't make it right, but it kind of screwed up the way people were going to react to it. And I think because they were all playing, Chicago's playing and they're all playing, and then after you're done playing, they were throwing a hell of a lot of stuff at them. I'm sure when they go in line and they see what's been going on for the playing.
Greg Wyshynski tweeted this yesterday, and I think it was part of the Westhead interview, and I just read this, and it's something that I'm a little surprised at as well, because people involved with the team. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying at the moment that they were in the Stanley Cup final, you understood that they wanted to keep this quiet because it could have a detrimental effect to the team. It's not right. It shouldn't have been done, but that was the mindset. But Kyle Beach said, word spread pretty quick. I do believe that everyone in the locker room knew about it because the comments were made in the locker room. They were made on the ice. They were made around the arena with all different people of all different backgrounds, players, staff, media in the presence. So if media knew about it too, and they didn't say anything, that's a problem. And the other ripple effect.
I can tell you, Eck and I covered that entire cup. Matter of fact, we were in locker room, and it's the last time any media members were in the locker room.
Yeah.
Because the Philly locker room guys knew us. They didn't have any directions that said they couldn't go in.
Right.
So we went in. We covered that. We saw a lot of things in there as far as them celebrating. But the idea was we were in the locker room. We were on the ice. We had no idea. So if media members knew, that is terrible.
And
should not be off.
Hard to see media people knew.
And then the other thing is the statement from Donald Fear, Russ. Basically saying that the PA was, I mean, in a way, I don't know if he said that they were culpable, but they had knowledge of it and they promised to do better. Okay, great, but if there was knowledge back in 2010 and you didn't do something about it, then you basically let the side down in terms of, I mean, there's a player who's been abused. You're the Players Association. You should be advocating for that player.
Again, it's their job to know. It's his job to know. And whenever they found out something was filed or whoever was filed with didn't go report it to them, I'm assuming that person's no longer there at this point or what have you. But I don't, I put into a call to one of my sources at the PA to try to find that out because that felt really weird to me about that statement. It's like, okay, this was sent to, it was made to one of our people who handles that, and it didn't go any further and should have gone further. Basically, is what he was saying. Who was that person? Who was that person who didn't take it further? That I think is something that we don't know. I remember at that time we had Alison Magula covering the Blackhawks, and he was in the locker room. He was in the locker room with the Blackhawks a lot. So I'm trying to get in touch with him to see if he can tell us anything that he heard or if he heard any of this from the media at that point in time. But I really find it hard to believe. I mean, listen, people are really afraid of teams often, you're afraid of losing your credential. You're afraid of this kind of thing. But I can't imagine that I don't know. I have a really hard time imagining that if one of us knew about this, we wouldn't bring it up to somebody.
Listen, there's things that have come up in my working life that on a couple of occasions, I had to risk my job to go forward and do something. One time I didn't lose my job. The other time I did. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. I know. All right. Well, at 2:00 in about an hour, about 45 minutes, Gwen will meet. Shovel is not meeting until Monday.
Yes.
But I think that's also telling a little bit about how important they feel like the Shovel Day have role.
That's very telling. I mean, again, based on the quote that came out, which didn't seem like they were worried because they, cooperated. Okay, you cooperated, but again, to me, that's not good enough.
Yeah, so
I do feel like you're right. I think that is telling.
What Kevin said yesterday is, well, Stan Bowman cooperated, and he got fired basically. So just because you cooperated,
that doesn't take you off the hook. I mean, it's what you have to say.
But one thing, I mean, Cheveldayoff was an assistant general manager, and it was reported to the president and to the general manager. They were the decision makers. He could have said, okay, I think this is wrong, and gotten overruled by them. So being an underling in this situation, it does give you a bit of a defense that, okay, I did everything that I could, but the people higher up said that we're going to cover this up.
Right. But it's like what Kevin Allen said, though. If something is a crime, the police should be called.
Yes.
Yeah, they should be called. Exactly.
And anybody could call the police. Anybody who knows about it.
Like, hockey is not this imaginary walled off society. I mean, it just, and sometimes people have the feeling like it is. I feel like they think it is. Like, it's just even when you're in there and talking to people, they can do whatever they want to within the realm of that hockey thing. Where something else they would do, would be if we get them thrown in jail. The reality is, they live in society like everybody else lives in society. They've got to be held accountable like everybody else is held accountable. Beach's Elite Prospect page is now linked to 1 in 6, which is a nonprofit organization which supports male victims of sexual assault and fights to end the stigma of men coming forward with abuse, which is a really great thing that was done by Elite Prospects.
I write for them. They're a good organization.
Yeah, that's
Peter Sidner's a good guy.
It's impressive, I think, and I'm glad they did that. This is the kind of things that have to happen, and we have to talk about it. And the other thing that has to happen is Rick Westhead needs to be unbelievably complimented for this. Like, this is like, and I wrote about it, and Beach, when he's talking, says if it wasn't for Rick Westhead, he doesn't think that this would have happened at all, that would have ever come out, that people would have continued to deny it, continued to say it was crazy, continued to say, continued to be his word against everybody else's. It's very, it's very, very important. West has always done some incredible stuff. This is just another one, and
He always has.
Very, very important, and we really need real hard-hitting journalism in sports. We just do, and it's not for all of us because
him and Katie Stang do most of that work in the hockey world.
Yeah, and it's definitely to be honored for sure. Okay, all right, let's move on to the games because we did have games last night and through all this stuff, and
you know which one you're going to start with, so go ahead and start with it.
I had a feeling. I said to you guys that I thought the Flyers would be.
You got it right.
It's just there's a certain. It's just that I go with this all the time. This certain ebb and flow that I feel like in hockey, and then there's some games that just have everything sort of going in the right direction, and that's what this one felt like. And
the Rio Oilers, please stand up.
But I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
At what point in the game were you worried about your own prediction? Because there had to be a point.
Oh yeah, no,
they were getting dominated for a while.
Oh, the whole game, honestly. Even in the third period, like I thought this, when the Flyers took that penalty with like a couple minutes to go, 4 minutes to go, I think, I thought, which probably was kind of a lame call, but it gave them a power play, and no, listen, that game was back and forth. Like that first period was crazy. That Atkinson goal was one of the greatest goals I've seen in a long time. I mean, that ends with a couple seconds left in the
it was tremendous. He's been tremendous.
He's been unbelievable. And when he kicks the puck,
he's responsible for at least 2 wins on his own.
Yeah, I mean, and kicking the puck to himself, and getting that shot off with less than a second to go, unbelievable. I mean, that's just that's magical stuff there.
It is.
And McDavid's goal was beautiful too. It was a crazy.
Yeah, listen, they held him to 2 points.
Yeah.
At this point, that's a good effort.
It is because he's now still holds that still in rare company of people who've had multiple point games to start seasons. But yeah, it's I thought Carter Hart was good. And as the game
Hart was good, not great.
He didn't start off great, but he definitely. It's good when you can see a young goalie that can not start off great, but then end strong, and that's something that shows a little bit of growth, I think, at Hart. So. He definitely from the time he gets up that goal in a couple seconds in the second period, he was lights out. He was really
I just watched.
Yeah.
I just watched the Atkinson goal because I didn't see it, and that is a pure Mikko Koskinen special. Swiss cheese should be his nickname because he is. He's.
I feel like if you put here's the funny thing about Koskinen: if he didn't have size, he would be even worse.
Yes.
He's almost like if you put a polar bear in net and you just put the equipment on it, once in a while the polar bear would stop a shot.
Yeah. No. I mean, the thing about him is, that's the perfect way to beat a goal. Like he's very, very slow side to side. So the perfect way to beat a goalie who's slow side to side is to change the angle of your shot, which kicking the puck from your foot to your stick does.
No, so, but the way to beat Mikko Koskinen is shoot on the net.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that was definitely. I mean, and he's been amazing. I mean, for the Flyers, just really been.
No, Atkinson's been amazing. Yeah.
And by the way,
Cam's right. He doesn't ever make the key save.
When we did the Flyers team preview, I was the one who said that Cam Atkinson was going to lead them in goal scoring.
Yeah.
You did. I said Farabee. I'm going to stick with that.
I mean, that line has been very good. And all three of those guys, they play very well together. It's an interesting line, and also, I mean, and Giroux. I mean, Giroux's start to the season has been phenomenal. And
he's in better shape. It's a contract year.
Bingo.
I think you can't deny that. That's playing into this. But last night, winning the 3 defensive zone faceoffs in a row. At the end of the game with Edmonton having their goalie out, that was incredible. I mean, against McDavid, who was a great, McDavid and Draisaitl, but against Draisaitl, I guess it was mainly, who was a good face-off guy too. I mean, those two teams, going to last night's game, were the 2 best face-off teams in the league.
Eck, my eyes were flickering, but it did seem like Tippett was banking on going against the first pairing to let McDavid match up against that and beat him. And honestly, it was working for a while.
Yeah, it was. The weird choice that the Oilers had is after losing 2 offensive zone faceoffs in the left circle to continually go to, because the Oilers have the option of which circle to go to continually go to the offensive, because it was the Risings. So to continually go to the left circle instead of the right circle, like after you've lost 2 already to Giroux in the left circle, which is definitely Giroux's better side. I didn't understand that logic. It shows you how little confidence the Oilers have in McDavid and Draisaitl on the right circle. Because I mean, why would you go back again when you've been beaten twice? Go back a third time to that spot. The other game I was watching and keeping an eye on was Chicago and Toronto. Because it obviously was an important game, and this game started off nightmarish for the Leafs for sure. They do get the win, and the crazy thing about Toronto, Mike, and this is the thing, like this is a very flawed team right now, but the record is not that bad, And the weird thing is they're actually, if they can get it together, they'll remember the fact that they got some points out of the beginning of the season.
Well, the thing is, and I was sort of stunned, but not really. Because you look at the Atlantic Division right now, and your Sabres are they're a paper tiger. They're 4-1-1, or they're not going to be there at the end of the year. But give them the credit that they're hustling and trying. Detroit is a young team with a couple great young prospects in Raymond and Sider, but they're not going to be there either. Ottawa is got some good young players, but they have a lot of holes. Montreal is a disaster. Boston has started out slow. The Leafs.
Wait, so you're saying that 5 could come out for the Metro? Is that what you're saying, Mike?
No, not at all. What I'm saying.
That is what you're saying. You
no,
don't realize it.
That is not. Don't put words in my mouth, Russ. What I am saying is that the Leafs have been bad. They've lost 4 games in a row, and yet they win yesterday against one of the worst teams in the league. And lo and behold, they're 2 points out of a playoff spot and 2 points out of second place in the division.
So you have to get points when you play badly. They've gotten points out of playing badly, which is
right.
Really important. And as if they do get together, there's a plus and a minus side to that. Like it's a plus if your team gets it together and suddenly and does really well. It's a minus if they don't, because it basically was like just leading you to think they're better than they were. And
but
because that's what I'm curious about. Is the Leafs record leading us to believe that they're better than they are?
No, I mean, okay, they have not played well. They've deserved to lose. In the only game of those 4 games that they didn't deserve to lose was against the Rangers. Shesterkin robbed them blind, and Panarin turned it on for 15 seconds in overtime and got the winner. I think that was that game could have gone either way. I'm not diminishing what the Rangers did, but it was an even game. They deserved to lose to Pittsburgh. They should have destroyed Pittsburgh, but they didn't. Yeah. They deserved to lose to the Sharks, who they underestimated, and they lost to a better team right now in Carolina. This game, they fall behind 2-0, and only because Jack Campbell kept them in the game for most of it. It's like in the second and third period, he made a whole bunch of saves. Yeah. One save on Kursh in the third period where he went post to post, robbing them blind. And then just before Nylander's game winner, he gets a piece of a Seth Jones shot, and it goes the other way, and Nylander scores on a breakaway. I mean, that's you need your goalie to make saves. They've been relying on him a lot more than they wanted to, and he's been able to, get points for them when they haven't deserved to get points. So, yeah, I mean, they're fortunate that they are where they are right now in that division. But I do think later on in the year, Russ, Boston, Florida, Tampa, and Toronto will get easier points in the Atlantic to win one of those wild card spots than the points in the Metro, where every team, even Columbus,
unless they all stink and they're all at the same level, then that might not happen.
Oh, we'll see.
Like there is a possibility of this.
To be held into a game like that, like against Chicago, who's just been horrible. But your goal for your goalie.
Yeah, the Leafs are what they are right now.
The Leafs are struggling.
We all admit they should score more, but right now they are what they are, and I don't know how long it's going to last. I have no idea.
Yeah, when you're relying on David Camp for some offense, who has scored 2 goals in 100 games or something like that. I mean, they got it.
I think that I agree that's just, to me, my gosh, it's like this. There feels like there's something wrong with the coaching on that team. It just feels like when you watch them, it just feels like there's something wrong. And I don't know how you can sit there and say no. I mean,
I don't know. No, I don't think it's the coaching. I think it's the fact that you've got 4 players who aren't producing. You've got
but even with those, but even then, even not producing. Like we've seen the Predators like in that situation, right? Where the Predators have, it's like it reminds me of like of Duchesne and Johansson, like these guys who are great, getting paid a ton of money, have been stars, and they're not producing, right? But even then, you should get something. You should still get something out of it.
That's the whole point, Eck. I mean, up until yesterday, the core group, Marner, Matthews, and Tavares, I'll exclude Nylander because he actually scored a couple goals. They had a collective 2 goals.
Yeah,
2 goals in 7 games.
I know.
So, I mean, when your core group doesn't score, when one of the best wingers in the league can't even make a pass tape to tape, which it looked like Marner couldn't do. Everything was not operating. Not everything is not honky dory now for the Leafs. I mean, their big shutdown defensive pairing is playing terribly. They were on the ice for another 2 goals last night. So there's still things. There are still things that need to be rectified. But that was a valuable 2 points, and now they're maybe it helps them turn it around.
Yeah. I mean,
timeout. We got some breaking news here. They are changing the marquee, 2 of the marquees at Madison Square Garden. Like, I get sometimes you want to update things, but when you walk in New York City, and you walk by that, the fact that it looks familiar is a big deal to how you feel about the building.
Wow. What are they doing to it? I wonder.
Right now, they're just, somebody took a picture, and it's just, the board is empty.
Oh,
and it doesn't say anything.
Maybe they're putting in like something. I have to think they'd stay with their logo to a degree. I mean, you
would have to think that, but right now it's not there. Like, why would you just strip it blind? Like, it's just,
if you don't have something else to replace with it immediately.
Why would you do this in the season anyhow? Why wouldn't you have done this in the summer?
Yeah, no, that's really true. I mean, that building is so iconic when you walk towards that. Like,
this is the big high rank part of the year for them, for concerts and games, Knicks, Rangers, and you've done it now. It's so obvious now that it's just weird.
It's very, very strange. Oh man, very, very strange.
But there's going to be new ones on 31st Street and 33rd Street. But like, you should have done it before.
I totally agree. I don't. If they go away from the logo, then we'll talk. That's definitely going to be like, I mean, there is definitely a a Madison Square Garden. That's such a cool building to be inside of. It
is, and the Knicks are actually doing well. So now, like, it's more amplified than it used to be.
Yeah,
the Knicks haven't been good in a long time, and so the people are all talking about it just from an NBA perspective, that it's nice to have it back. But when you go there, it's just, I always tell people, like, I'm sure I feel differently because I lived there close, on the island, and I went there a lot. But it does feel different when you walk into it. I don't know if it's the ceiling, and they changed the ceiling. They had to because it was asbestos. They had to change it, but they still managed to maintain the look.
Yeah, they maintain the look, and that look is so epic that and when you're in the press box, the cool thing about it is you're right on it. Like, the ceiling is like ceiling is like maybe just like 2 floors above you, really close to you, and you really get that. The lines going away from you and all converging in the middle. It's an incredible thing.
So maybe that's the reason, because everybody else's ceiling is like hardware. It's like the unfinished metal with the catwalks.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think, because of that, I've heard because of that ceiling, Madison Square Garden is one of the better acoustic places to play. Like, as far as the concerts go, like, because you don't have sound bouncing around up in the rafters as much, because it's like a finished ceiling, which is like you don't often see. But that is something. That is definitely something.
Anyhow, I just wanted to bring that up.
No, very, very interesting. So, I think that, then actually we'll talk about the Florida Panthers game for a second too. The Panthers, they definitely came out.
I refuse to watch it. I don't know if that's childish. I didn't watch it on purpose.
Okay, no, I mean, they came out really looking like this was affecting them. They were outshot like 11-2 in the beginning of the game, and that was the worst I'd seen them play all year. And yet they still found a way to dominate the last 2 periods. So that team is just they're on autopilot right now. They really are. They have so many scorers. It's really impressive.
They have a great team. I mean, up top to bottom, we've talked about it. The most depth in the league. They have all the right players in all the right spots. They have depth at goaltending. Like, there's nothing you could look at and say this is a real weakness for them.
Right. Right. There's nothing at all. I know.
Yeah, I mean, any concerns? Ekblad has come back from his injury, and he doesn't look like he's really phased at all. Yeah, I mean, they're solid up front. They're solid in goal. They're solid defensively. They're playing the right way. Now, we'll just see how all the other stuff.
And then, how it plays out. I mean, and then the Red Wings, I watched some of that too this morning. I watched some of the Red Wings Capitals game. And, man, the Red Wings are – there's a point at which you're like, this is a great start, and there's a point at which they're a little bit for real. I mean, there's something to this team. I mean, they really battled this game. They looked like they were on an even keel with the Capitals the entire game. I didn't get one sense that there was a team that was better than the other.
We know it's behind this. Thomas Greiss was in goal, so of course you're gonna love affair with the Red Wings.
Because honestly, Vanacek, who I'm a huge fan of, was in goal for the Capitals. He let up a bad goal, I thought, to tie the game. But he's been really good. But man, there are some speedy, crafty players on the Red Wings now.
Oh, there's some talent there.
They definitely have talent. They definitely are going to surprise some teams. I feel like everybody jumped on Bissonnette too much yesterday after the game when he was like, I think they could challenge for a playoff spot. He didn't say they were going to make the playoffs, but everybody starts jumping on him when he says challenge. But I think even for them just being in the conversation for a little while is better than they've been the last couple of years. That's really progress.
It's a good proving ground for those young players to be in a competition even halfway through the season. But do I expect them to finish any higher than, say, 6th or 7th? No,
probably
not.
But adding Raymond and adding Seider is massive.
Yeah,
and it's massive for their future. So it's not like just, hey, it's going to be good for the next couple of years. Right. It could be good for the next decade while everybody else starts to fill in around them. They've done some good drafting, so this is a big plus for them.
And they are getting good goaltending, not from Greiss, but from the outfit. They're getting good goaltending, and it definitely has shown. They are something.
Yeah, Letty has been a really good pickup for him. I thought he lost a step. Maybe he was just tired in the playoffs, but he looks fine now. So
or he was injured.
I know. Yeah. So tonight, by the way, did you guys see the Seattle Kraken throwing stuffed salmon at their crowd? That's like that's
funny.
So the 3 stars come out. They each have like a plush salmon with them, and they're throwing it in the crowd. That was pretty good. All right, so because the whole fish throwing Seattle thing, there's a whole thing there with fish.
Okay, yes, because it's the market. If you go to the market, they throw
throw fish around. So I thought it's cool that they bring something.
Well, speaking of throwing,
I've been to that market.
Speaking of throwing things,
there too,
Speaking of throwing,
hold on, don't
go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing about the Seattle market because I want to get X feeling. I know that's like an iconic thing, Ek. I still think it's kind of gross. I eat fish. Gross. I like fish, but it's really gross.
It's really gross. It's really gross. It's trashy. It smells awful. And there's fish just lying.
It does smell awful.
And there's just fish just lying in the sun. I mean, I know they're on ice and everything like that, but they're just lying there in the sun at times. And it's not for the weak. It's like you better like fish if you win there because it's just you're gonna smell like fish for a couple of days yourself. Like it just smells
just what I want. Speaking of throwing things, I don't know if this is a trend, but we saw when Jack Hughes scored an overtime goal, he threw his stick into the crowd. And I'm pretty sure that William Nylander, when he scored in Chicago, threw the stick in the crowd because I saw somebody after the game in the stands with a shiny blue stick. So is this going to be like like a trend like throwing baseballs into the crowd? Is this? I mean,
it's like the football when the NFL they throw the football in the crowd,
right? But it's an awful expensive, because these
be more equivalent of a baseball player throwing his bat into the crowd. It's like it's kind of a dangerous thing to do, like throw your hockey stick into the crowd. I have to say.
Well, they're not throwing it like this; they're tossing it in.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But,
it's not expensive for the players. They don't pay for their sticks. Come on.
That's true. They
don't for sure. But it is a potential fight in the crowd. I can see that for sure. Because who's determining who gets the
so
stick?
far, hockey fans have been good about it.
So far is always a key word there. So far. So tonight the Andrew Mangiapane led Calgary Flames. Are going into Pittsburgh. Go ahead, Mike.
No. I was just going to say because it could have an effect on their season. The news that came out yesterday about Drew Doughty being out at least 6 weeks with the I think it was a knee injury. but Sean Walker having ACL, MCL, and being out for the season. So now they're going to be out without 2 defensemen for the next, couple months, and 1 for the rest of the
Now, has Walker had an injury history? Because I feel like he has.
I don't know. I have to check his bio, but
Doughty, that was a dirty hit.
It was. I am surprised Hockenpah did not get suspended.
Yeah,
but luckily it's only for 6 weeks and not the season.
Right, but now that was an area, a questionable area for the Kings. They went out and they got Edler and they have Mata, but they're not deep on defense, and without Doughty for that amount of time. Walker. No, he played 47 games last year, 70 games the year previous. So he may have had like short-term injuries.
Little injuries.
Yeah.
Little ones, okay.
But, that's – so they've lost 2 right-hand shot defensemen. That's tough to replace.
I wonder if Doughty's Olympic hopes, this is like something that –
Well, he'll be back by Christmas. So
he'll be back in time for it, but will he – I thought he was borderline. He was having a great year.
He had a great year to start. So, Russ, what this might give is an opportunity to someone like Cale Clegg, who's never really been given a great opportunity.
He needs to step it up. This is like his big chance.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, tonight, Calgary and Pittsburgh, we're going to, there's a chance that Crosby could be back for this game tonight.
So, Eck, when do they start using Mangiapane like in the game previews on ESPN and TNT? When will that start happening?
Yesterday I heard it happen.
Yeah.
No, it didn't happen.
It did. It happened.
It has never happened.
Against Andrew Mangiapane.
On XM. And XM, they had a big thing with that.
On XM. I'm talking about television.
Yeah, well, the Calgary's never on television.
When has it happened on television?
Yeah, well, we're getting our national commentary from the Drudge Report.
He was a Bruin or a Ranger. It would happen all the time, but it's a Flame. Calgary's never on television in America, so it's not gonna happen. So Philly Vancouver tonight, as well. So I guess we're going to see Martin Jones tonight. Okay,
here's
have no choice.
here's the bet of the night, and I'm not saying people go out and bet, but here's the over under. The Tampa Bay Lightning are playing at home against the Arizona Coyotes, the 0-5-1 Arizona Coyotes, plus or minus 6 goals for the Coyotes.
I'm still going to go plus, but we were wrong about that the last time too.
Yes, I'm going plus.
This game's going to overtime.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm on a streak here, guys. I'm on a serious streak. Everything has been right for like 2 weeks, so I'm going to say this now.
If we had this show in 1962, Eck would be like, I know the Mets are in last place and they've lost like 15 out of 16. I think they're going to go on a run now.
I was trying to do that with the Rangers last year, Russ.
JT Stengel has won World Series. I think they're going to win the pennant.
I was trying to get the Rangers in the playoffs last year. All right. Yeah, so it's the same kind of thing. I agree with you. I would have done that for sure. All right, so it's going overtime. Just remember
the optimism is just incredible.
Remember I said that. Arizona taking it overtime tonight. Tampa's struggling. Tampa's looked terrible lately. Arizona has nothing to lose. Perfect setup. This is a battle between 2 teams whose players know no bad weather. Like there's these
but it's a home game. That's true. But it's a home game.
It's a home game.
They're not going to lose a home game, I don't think.
I don't think they're going to lose. I'm just saying it's going to overtime. I'm not going that far yet. All right. That's all the time I have for today, folks. It's as fun. It's a lot of fun. Thanks as always for watching. We'll be back later, and tomorrow we'll have more news, I'm sure, on this whole thing and see where we've gone. We'll be going from here, and we'll have lots of games to talk about. So enjoy the games tonight. Remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Please be safe out there and have a good day.